we are ready. It is 10 o'clock, and welcome to the Potpourri service. I'm Andy Leyenaar, your deacon for the day, and here are your community matters. There's a lot of stuff going on, Religious Education Corner. Take a look at it. A lot of good stuff, a lot of thank yous, and RJAC's got something going on, so have a look at that. And so also, just a reminder that after the service, we're not doing Joys and Concerns, but we are going to have a coffee hour. Come in, and after, just stay where you are and we'll sit around and we'll chat. I think that'll be very nice. And with that, let's start the service. We call to worship. Welcome, welcome one and all to the Potpourri service here on this fine, beautiful, crisp December day. Traditionally, the staff is given the last Sunday after Christmas off. That falls on this Sunday. And the minister and the rest of the staff will be back on January 3rd. I'd like to thank Mike Pilman, fellow deacons, and Carolyn McCreary, and of course, Violet, for helping us with the service today. Also, no, you know what? I think that's it. Please, we called on you, Violet, to light our chalice.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Please join us in our first hymn, number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life. The words for it can be found in the chat area of your devices.
When I first learned our next hymn, Blessed Spirit of My Life, it was named Prayer. I learned it from its composer, Shelley Jackson Denham, at The Mountain, a UU retreat center in Highlands, North Carolina. To me, it is the ideal prayer. It calls on the Spirit of Great Mystery to hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then, when life is done for me, let love be my legacy. Please join Lezli Whitehouse in singing number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity, let me know serenity. Fill me with the vision, clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Thank you, Carolyn, for recording the music, and for Lezli for singing that. That was lovely. And good morning. In case you don't know me, I'm Cindy Malley, your middleist deacon. And I have the privilege of telling you a story for today's Time for All Ages. This story is a true story, and it's about a broken piano. A long, long time ago, way back in 1975, when mastodons roamed the earth. No, not really. That part's not true. I'm pretty sure mastodons only existed in museums in 1975, but what do I know? I was only 2. But let's get back to the true part of the story. In late January 1975, not too long ago, a German teenager named Vera Brandes walked out on the stage of the Cologne Opera House. It was empty, except for a piano she had arranged to be delivered for a performance by the American pianist Keith Jarrett. Vera was Germany's youngest concert promoter. She loved jazz, and at 16, she started arranging concerts. This was her most important so far. Keith had already created a name for himself at the age of 29 by playing with other jazz greats. But now he was on his own as a solo artist. This was a big deal for the both of them. 1,400 people were coming to the Opera House. The concert was sold out. But now, as Vera introduced the piano to Keith, things were starting to fall apart. Keith and his manager played a few keys, walked around the instrument, and then huddled together before breaking the bad news to Vera. This piano was unplayable. Keith was a musical perfectionist and needed things to be absolutely right. He requested a specific piano, a Bösendorfer Imperial. That is a very big, musically exquisite, expensive piano. The Opera House told Vera they had what she needed. But somehow, the piano on stage was nothing like what was promised. It was a Bösendorfer, but it was small, completely out of tune. The upper and lower octave were wrecked. The black notes in the middle didn't work. The pedal stuck. In short, it was absolutely unplayable. Keith Jarrett said no. With there being no way to get a replacement piano in time, Keith opted to walk out. Vera ran along beside him begging. With 1,400 people showing up that night for concert, she was afraid there'd be a riot. She was in trouble. Keith got into his car and Vera continued to beg. And that's when he took pity on her. He would try to play the broken piano. He told his manager to cancel the planned recording of the performance, but since the equipment and the technicians were already paid, his manager talked him out of it. Keith was sure this would be a recorded catastrophe. And so the show went on. A tuner went to work to try and remove some of the kinks in that piano in the few minutes before the concert. But miracles often only go so far. It was now in tune, but still had silent keys, a malfunctioning sustain pedal, and an upper registry that was harsh and tinny. And to make matters worse, this piano was too small, and if it played in the traditional style, would never fill the concert hall with music. Still, Keith Jarrett stepped out onto that stage, alone, in front of an audience of 1,400 people at the Opera House. he sat down at this broken piano and began to play. Almost instantaneously, everybody knew this was something special. It was magic. The audience was mesmerized. Keith was avoiding the upper registers. He stuck to the middle keys, which gave the piece a soothing ambient quality. He used his left hand to produce rumbling, repetitive bass rhythms as a way to hide the piano's lack of resonance. But since the piano wasn't loud enough, he couldn't remain seated and relaxed. So he stood up and started pounding the keys as a way to create enough volume to fill the hall and reach the people in the balconies. He didn't hold back in any way, and he pummeled that piano to produce something completely unique. That night became legendary. That was the performance that made Keith Jarrett's reputation. It wasn't what he ever imagined he would play, but being given an impossible task, he succeeded. What happened was beyond his control, but it was happening in front of the largest audience he ever faced, so he needed to fly. And Keith soared. He didn't get a catastrophe. He got a masterpiece. The recording was released as the Cone Concert. It's the best-selling piano album in history and the best-selling solo jazz album too. There are two lessons I'd like you to take from this story. The first is about Vera Brandes. She didn't like the way things were, so she decided to change them at 16. And when things got tough, she got tenacious. So take this from her. If you don't like the way things are, you can change them, even if you may think you're small. It's probably not going to be easy, and you might have to toughen up, but you can do it. And the second lesson is about Keith Jarrett. He did not get what he wanted, what he knew he needed. But eventually he agreed to try and create something good from that broken instrument. Some might argue that 2020 was a broken piano. This is not what we wanted. I'm sure you miss your friends, normal school, sports, walking around outside without a mask, hugging. I miss it all too. I wish that I was in church with you right now. I wish I was in my comfort zone. That's where we all want to be, our comfort zones. Most of us are forced into new realities, fussing and complaining. We don't like to try new things, and because of this, often we don't try unless something forces us to. 2020 forced us to try. And I can see some good in that. There are things we've tried that we will continue to do long after COVID is a thing of the past. And I bet there are things you've tried this past year just because you were forced to try, but you will keep doing and appreciating for years to come. Maybe we didn't get a masterpiece out of our broken piano, but we got something good. My hope for you with this story is that the next time you're given a broken piano, you choose to play it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. That was a great inspirational and exciting story. My name is Bill Duston, and now is the time in our service that we would normally ask the ushers to pass among you to collect our offertory. Because we are remote and not together physically, we're asking for your gifts in a different way to support the good works of this church. If you choose, you can mail a check to First Church Unitarian, 19 Foster Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460. Or you can go to our website at fculittle.org and click on the yellow button and follow the prompts on the screen. As always, we thank you for your generous monetary support, as well as your time, your energy, and your commitment to First Church Unitarian. Thank you. Our offertory music today will be a recorded piece from the 2019 Community Christmas Concert. It's entitled, I Heard the Bells, Dona Nobis Pacem, and it is performed by the Artemis Singers and the Youth Choir. Enjoy. And now, as advertised, this is the community sharing portion of this Potpourri service, which gives you the opportunity to share something meaningful with the congregation. This is your moment. A poem, a brief piece of prose, a prayer, a song or a piece of pre-recorded music, which we will hear later in the service, or just your own musings. If you have something that you'd like to share, please raise your digital hand, and which can be found in the participant list at the bottom of your screen. After we have recognized those with digital hands raised, we will offer that if you don't have a chance to raise your digital hand or don't know how to do it, you will be able to raise your actual hands on Zoom and we will recognize you. Does anybody want to share something? And I see some hands, so I'll be calling on folks here. Prizzle, would you like to share?
Yes, Bill, thank you. I would like to share a story about a postcard. It started 40 years ago, 1980. Remember where you were December 1980? I was living in my first apartment with my first job after college, with a roommate from with a friend from college as a roommate. Her name's Patty. And that December is so vivid in my thoughts. We were together the night we heard John Lennon was dead. We were together. We worked on retreats at a place called Emmaus House in Manchester, New Hampshire. And that month we were dealing with a friend who worked there too. An older man, he probably was 5 years older than us, dying of a brain tumor. His name was Rich. And we had long conversations about, should we go to his funeral? Did we know him enough to go to his funeral? And that month, we received a postcard from him. And to us, it was an invitation to his funeral. And we did go to his funeral a month later. This postcard was, I never knew how important the postcard would be. We lived together for a few years and had the postcard. And then I moved to Massachusetts. She moved to back home to Connecticut. And we had to figure out what we were going to do with the postcard. So we started swapping it each year. And at the beginning, it didn't mean a lot until one year when I almost lost it. And then I framed it. So it's framed. We continue to see each other once a year around Christmas time to swap it. Last year, Patty sent it to me in the mail, and I was like, we could have lost it. And that made me want to look at it more. So I took it out of the frame, and it was, the stamp on it was days before John Lennon's death. So we probably received that postcard the day he died or a couple days later, which means so much to me too. This year, I have the card. So I've been struggling what to do. I could not put it in the mail. I bought the packaging, I had it in the box, and I couldn't do it. So my husband and I talked and we said, we can meet Patty at the intersection of the border of Connecticut and Massachusetts and give it to her. So last Saturday, I called her and I said, you know, Patty, I have this problem. I have to get you this, and I'm not going to mail it. And I told her our idea, and she said, no, Prizzle, the gift of this year is that you thought of that. So you keep it another year, and I'll have it for 2 the next time. And so that's my postcard. It's a postcard with picture of the Magi, and the words are, then and now, the true gifts of Christmas, peace, joy, and love.
Thank you, Prizzle. And now, could we hear from, how about Anna?
Sure. I just wanted to share a very brief Maya Angelou poem. It's called I've Learned that whenever I decide something with an open heart, I usually make the right decision. I've learned that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. I've learned that every day you should reach out and touch someone, virtually in this case. People love a warm hug or just a friendly pat on the back. I've learned that I have a lot to learn. And I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's the end of the poem.
Thanks for the poem, Anna.
Yeah.
Could we hear from Sarah Weeks?
Which Sarah? Cope or?
I think it was Sarah Cope.
Sarah Cope.
Okay.
Sorry. Sarah.
Thanks. Okay. Hi. I am this morning going to read a passage from the book When Women Were Birds, which is one of my all-time favorite books by Terry Tempest Williams. And for those of you who don't know anything about her, she is a writer with the gift of words about our environment. And this is a bit about the Southwest and well, you'll hear. Changing Woman was impregnated by the sun and gave birth to the twins, Monster Slayer and Child of the Water. In the Navajo pantheon, this is the holy family I met when I traveled to the Four Corners in the American Southwest. Geology became genealogy. Lava fields became the congealed blood of demons who died on these battlefields, brought down by Monster Slayer to save the people. Shiprock became winged rock, much more than a remnant plug of a volcano. The morphology of plants, animals, rocks, and rivers is not answered simply by science, but constitutes and contributes to the cosmology of the people who inhabit a place. And it is spiritual. Earth, Mother, Goddess. In every culture, the voice of the feminine emerges from the land itself. We clothe her as Eve or Isis or Demeter. In the desert, she appears as Changing Woman. She can shift shapes like the wind and cut through stone with her voice like water. And when she approaches us with her open hands, carrying offerings of white shells in arid country, she reminds us that there was a time before drought when ancient seas covered the desert. She is not to be classified. She is not to be controlled. She is the one who embodies the moon, honoring the cyclic nature of life. I wish someone had told me when I was young that it was not happiness I could count on, but change. The question, what stories do we tell that evoke a sense of place, became my obsession. For many years, I wandered through the desert in search of a narrative that was not mine. I did not feel I belonged here. I was borrowing a landscape until I found my own. But when I stopped searching and settled into the erosional peace of the Red Rock Desert, I found myself quietly held by an immensity I could not name. I took off my clothes and lay on my back in a dry arroyo and followed the heat and allowed the heat absorbed into the pink sand to enter every cell in my body. I closed my eyes and became simply another breathing presence on the planet. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah, for that reading.
Welcome.
Let's see. I think at this point, I know we have some more. Maybe I'll call him one more, and then we'll take a break with a hymn, and then we'll move on to the second segment. Can we hear from Susan Tordella?
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Most of you know me as someone who does things and gets things done. And I'm at a time, I'm facing a problem in my life where all I can do is nothing. And so this song, which comes from the Bible, the book of Ecclesiastes, turn, 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 really speaks to me right now. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep, a time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late.
Thank you, Susan. I think if there was a time, this is really a time right now. Thank you. And now we'll have a change of pace for a moment, and Carolyn McCreary will lead us in our next hymn, number 325, Find a Stillness. And you will find the words in your chat. Thank you.
In keeping with December's theme of stillness, please join us in singing hymn number 352, Find a Stillness.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Thank you. Now we've come to our second time of community sharing, but we're going to start with an audio musical contribution we received earlier for today's service. And so I'm wondering, I don't see her on my screen, but I assume she's right there. I'm wondering if Neela would like to introduce what we're about to hear.
I'm here.
Excellent.
I'm having a tech problem today. I don't have a raise hand button. For some reason, it's disappeared from my thing. But this this winter anthem, which has been sung a couple of times, I think, by this choir. What you're going to hear today is a recording that we did in 2008, because that one has a piano interlude, which I was playing in between verses. And so I thought that it would be more festive for the occasion. And I don't know if you're, are you adding the art stuff, or did you decide not to do that?
I believe we did. I believe there is
It's in
art
there.
you'll be singing.
Okay,
Yes.
so there'll be a bunch of sort of randomly chosen art pieces, have nothing to do with winter really. They're just my art. That was Mike's idea, I think, to go along with this audio while it's playing. So enjoy, and if anyone wants me to send you the written text, I'll be happy to do that. I don't know if you put that on the screen or not, but anyhow, let's go.
Thank you, Neela. And now I'm going to look at who has their virtual hands raised, and I'm going to call on you in no particular order. How about Jim Barazano?
Okay, yeah, I have a poem
You're probably familiar with the poem by Robert Frost. Once a year, this book comes out right around the holidays, and it's one of our favorite poems. So I'm just going to read a short poem by Robert Frost. It's called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Well, probably most of us are familiar with this one. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds, the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Lynn Courtney.
Thank you. I have been thinking a lot these past months about how the arts get me through hard times. And so I want to share a little bit about that. I want to share two things just by putting links to them in the chat, and then I want to read a brief poem. The two things I want to share the links to are a virtual presentation of the song, How Can I Keep From Singing, that the New York Community Chorus and Orchestra posted back right around the time when all of us singers were really trying to come to grips with the fact that it was probably going to be a long time before we could sing together in a room again. And the other is a post by the Alvin Ailey Dance Company. The whole video is called A Call to Unite, but if you started a little after minute 1, you'll see this amazing dance from home presentation of Rock of My Soul in the Bosom of Abraham. So I will put those in the chat just in a moment. But now I want to share a poem with you that Barbara Martin, who is my friend and former colleague and boss at the Museum of Fine Arts, shared early in the after the lockdown started last spring. And she said she'd been thinking a lot about museums and the meaning of museums. But to me, this poem has a broader meaning in that for me, it's about how we have lost and grieved the loss of, and then found the resources and the perseverance to recreate in different ways all those kind of ordinary moments in life that we can't experience the way we are used to, the way we want to, the way we hope to again. So while this song is about objects, to me, not song, poem is about objects, it's about much more than that as well. This is called Praise the World, and it's by the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke. Praise the world to the angel. Leave the unsayable aside. Your exalted feelings do not move him. In the universe he inhabits, you are a novice. Therefore, show him what is ordinary, what has been, shaped from generation to generation, shaped by hand and eye. Tell him of things. He will stand in astonishment the way you stood by the rope maker in Rome or beside the potter on the Nile. Show him how happy a thing can be, how innocent and ours, how even a lament takes pure form, serves as a thing, dies as a thing, while a violin, blessing it, fades. And the things, even as they pass, understand that we praise them. Transient, they are trusting us to save them, us, the most transient of all, as if they wanted in our invisible hearts to be transformed into, or endlessly, into us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Christine, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Cindy. I have a reading that came from a book of daily meditations, and it is called Facing Life's Challenges. I selected this because I think it speaks to me on many different levels, personally, in community and family, and I hope it will to you as well. Love isn't a word you say or write. Love is the way you present yourself to the world, the face you put on, the clothes you wear, the way you walk and move, your very heart and soul. If you're not made up of love, you'll reflect this feeling to others and experience it within yourself. Inside your chest will be a heart, but one that's heavy and made of stone. Love isn't just a feeling. Love is a truth filled with forgiveness and kindness. It's a gift that's bursting with generosity and honesty. Love is the willingness to serve and to protect, to cherish and respect, to honor and be strong. You don't have to be in love to feel love. You simply need to embody it. That means that while you may not have feelings of love for everyone you meet, you can love them nonetheless. Thomas à Kempis described love in this way, quote, "Love is a great thing, a good above all others, which alone maketh every burden light. Love is watchful, and while sleeping, still keeps watch. Though fatigued, it is not weary. Though pressed, it is not forced." End quote. Have you loved those around you? Have you shown them that you accept them and care for them just the way they are? Have you given this love freely and willingly, with no expectations of anything being returned in kind? Do you acknowledge the goodness, wisdom, beauty, and love in others in the same way you'd like them to acknowledge such things in you? Express love to others, and so express love to yourself.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Lori Lacascia.
Good morning. I wanted to share from this book. It's called The Circle of Fire. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz, who you may know from the book The Four Agreements. And this is a slim volume of lessons and followed by a prayer or meditation. So I have, in the spirit of time, greatly condensed a few paragraphs from his chapter on truth. And then I will just read his middle meditation on it. Truth. Every human is an artist, and our greatest art is life. Humans perceive life and try to make sense of life by expressing what we perceive with words, music, and other expressions of art. We perceive life and then create a story to justify, describe, and explain our perception and emotional reaction. All humans are storytellers, and that is what makes us all artists. Everything we believe about ourselves is a story we create that is based in reality, but is just our point of view. Our point of view is based on our experience, what we know, on what we believe. And what we know and believe is just a program. It is nothing but words, opinions, and ideas we learn from others and form our own life experience. Humans perceive truth, but the way we justify and explain what we perceive is not truth. That is a story. And he calls that story a dream. The truth will set us free from all the lies we believe in. but we have to experience the truth to know the truth. We cannot put the truth into words. As soon as we start to talk about the truth, as soon as we put it into words or pictures or music, I will add, it is no longer the truth. We can experience truth, we can feel truth, but when we make the story, that story is only true for us. For everyone else, it is not truth. Everyone creates his or her own story, his or her own story. Everyone lives in his or her own dream. To recover awareness is to see life the way it is, not the way we want it to be. To be aware is to see what is truth, not what we want to see in order to justify the lies we believe. Open your heart and love unconditionally, not because you want love in return and not because you want to control someone. This is false love. When you love with no conditions, you transcend the dream of fear and become aligned with the divine spirit, the love of God, which is the love coming out of you. That love is life. And just like the sun, it is shining all the time. So I don't know if we have time to read. He has like a little prayer.
Go ahead, Lori.
Okay. Today, Creator. So he has this dialogue with Creator, which is truth that I was referencing. Today, Creator, I ask you to open my eyes and open my heart so that I can recover the truth about my life. Help me to resist the temptation to believe the lies that repress the expression of my life and my love. Give me the strength to resist the temptation to believe the lies of others that only create emotional poison in my heart. Today, Creator, let me see what is, not what I want to see. Let me hear what is, not what I want to hear. Help me to recover my awareness so that I can see you in everything I perceive with my eyes, with my ears, with all my senses. Let me perceive with eyes of love so that I can find you wherever I go and see you in everything you create. Help me to see you in every cell of my body, in every emotion of my mind, in every person I meet. Let me see you in the rain, in the flowers, in the water, in the fire, in the animals, and in the butterflies. You are everywhere, and I am one with you. Let me be aware of this truth. Today, let everything I do and say be an expression of the beauty in my heart. Let me be aware of the beauty and perfection in everything you create so that I can live in eternal love with you. Thank you, Creator, for the power to create a dream of heaven where everything is possible. Beginning today, I will use the power of my love to create a masterpiece of art, my own life. Amen.
Thank you, Lori. Jim Nearing.
Thank you, Cindy. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to share the story of one day when I went searching for God and found something better. So I was in Israel 10 years ago in the city of Haifa, and I was doing work there. And after about a week, we finished our work, and 3 of my colleagues and I decided that, gosh, when's the next time any of us are going to be in Israel again? We should go to Jerusalem. So we hopped in a cab that took us on a 3-hour ride to Jerusalem, amazingly paid for by our hosts, longest cab ride I've ever been on. And we spent 3 days there. Or should say they spent 2 days there. They all had to leave. Martin and Frank headed back to Belfast. Stacy flew back to Logan, and I had one more day, and it was a Sunday. And I thought, gosh, here I am in this amazing city, so important to the 3 great Abrahamic faiths. I should try to go on a personal little pilgrimage here today. So I thought, okay, I'll try to visit an important site for each of the 3 great faith traditions. So I got up early Sunday morning and I headed first to a Protestant church on the edge of the old city. And I went in, sort of wondering what I was going to find there. And to my great disappointment, I found an evangelical service that reminded me of my youth and was definitely not what I was looking for. And I quietly slipped out the back during a hymn. And I walked down the cobbled streets deep into the old city, and I thought, okay, next stop is the Western Wall. So I stepped up to the big sunny plaza. It was probably about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning at that point. And I walked up to the Western Wall with all the Jewish faithful and tourists and so forth. And I put my hand on the warm stone, and there was a certain connection there that was quite powerful. And then I wrote my little note on a piece of paper as you're supposed to do, and I rolled it up and I slipped it in a crack. And it was a good and special moment, but it wasn't everything I'd been looking for. So I thought, okay, next stop is an important Muslim site. And so I stepped back off the plaza and I started walking up the long ramp that takes you up to the top of the wall where the Dome of the Rock is, with armed guards at every turn. And I got up to the Dome of the Rock, and this gorgeous multicolored building was there, and I walked around it, and it was beautiful. Only the Muslim faithful are allowed inside, so I couldn't enter. And it was a great moment, but still it wasn't everything I was looking for. I thought, okay, today just isn't going to work, right? I've done all the three, religious traditions here, and it was nice, but that's that. And then I looked beyond the city and I saw the Mount of Olives, and I thought, well, the day is young. I like to walk. I'll go for a hike up the Mount of Olives. So I left the old city out one of the ancient gates, and I started up a walk to the top of the Mount of Olives and looked behind me and started to see the city below, and it was quite beautiful. And I got to the top, and there was an abandoned chapel, a Christian chapel, little stone thing. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And so I stepped inside, and it was clearly derelict. It looked derelict, and it smelled derelict in the way that buildings do. And I thought, okay, this is not going to be it. So then, okay, I've really tried everything now. I'll just head down and go back into the city and have a falafel and call it a day. But on my way down, I saw a little sign by the side of this little road I was on. It said, "This way to the Garden of Gethsemane." I thought, yeah, right. And, but I thought, okay, I'll follow the sign. What the heck? So I walked down expecting to see some kind of like Ersatz Disney World themed Garden of Gethsemane. And to my surprise, there was just this lovely quiet garden there. And I mean, who knows if it really was the Garden of Gethsemane, but it certainly stood for that. And I walked around, it was very quiet and peaceful. There were just a couple other people there, and there was this amazing view of the city below. And I noticed there were olive trees in it, and the olive trees were protected by like wire cages, like they were very special olive trees. And I stepped up to one of them and noticed a little sign that said, "This olive tree is 2,000 years old." That got my attention. And so I put my hand on this olive tree, and I thought about this tree that's stood here all these years and has borne witness to everything in the old city below that you could see from where this olive tree was, all the beauty, all the destruction, all the art, all the spirituality, all the awakenings, all the violence, the best and the worst of humanity. And all that time, this tree, like an infinitely patient mother, was producing olives in spite of it all. And that was my moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Lorinda, would you like to go ahead?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I guess this is something that reminds me of what's been said previously. It's sort of a haiku. Perhaps when I stop distracting myself, I will discover myself. Have a great day.
Thank you, Lorinda. And I see Patty.
Hi, I have two short quotes, and they're my favorites. The first one reminds me of FCU and all the wonderful musicians and instrumentalists we have, and just kind of overall the way that we work together. This morning, I have been pondering a nearly forgotten lesson I learned in high school music. Sometimes in band or choir, music requires players or singers to hold a note longer than they actually can hold the note. In those cases, we were taught to mindfully stagger when we took a breath, so the sound appeared uninterrupted. Everyone got to breathe and the music stayed strong and vibrant. So let's remember the advice of music. Take a breath. The rest of the chorus will sing. The rest of the band will play. Rejoin so others can breathe. Together we can sustain a very long, beautiful song for a very, very long time. You don't have to do it all, but you must add your voice to the song. And that's by Michael Moore. One that is by someone you've probably heard of. Strange is our situation up here upon earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to a divine purpose. From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know, that we are here for the sake of others, for the countless unknown souls whose fate we are connected by a bond of sympathy. Many times a day, I realize how much my outer and inner life is built upon the labors of people, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received. And that's by Albert Einstein. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. So it looks like that we have used all of our virtual hands. So I'm going to do a quick scan to see if I see any physical hands. I'm on an iPad, so I don't see as many screens as you all do.
Neela has her hand up.
Okay, Neela, would you like to go ahead? I think she's the only one.
You unmuted, and then you remuted. So hit it one more time.
Okay.
There you go.
My raise hand button has disappeared, so I couldn't do it on the screen.
Look under the credenza.
This is a quote from Carl Jung, The Psychology of the Unconscious. It's called The Afternoon of Life. An inexperienced youth thinks, indeed, that one can let the old people go, because in any case, there's nothing much that can be done with them. Life is behind them, and they cannot be considered as much more than petrified pillars of the past. But it is a great error to assume that the meaning of life is exhausted with the period of youth and growth. The afternoon of life is just as full of meaning as the morning, only its meaning and purpose is a wholly different one. Thank you.
Thank you, Neela. And I want to thank all of you for participating and helping to make this a lovely service today. Now we're going to have our final hymn in today's service. It's hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It's one of my personal favorites, and the lyrics should appear in your chat. Thank you.
Please join Lezli, Monica, and Mike in singing hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. You can find the words in the Zoom chat.
person in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Well, it has been one very interesting year. You know, as part of the executive team, we were working on trying to get to a 21st century church. And given the circumstances, we've made that one step. We've created a platform by which we can reach a larger community. And to some degree, we have. But still, there is an essence missing, isn't there? I mean, you know what? It's a lot like instant coffee. Yeah, you take the crystals and you put them in the cup, and then you add the hot water, and then you do whatever it is you do to your coffee, and you take a sip. And yeah, it tastes like coffee, but there's something missing. There's something missing. It's not fresh brewed. There's an essence that's not there. But the good thing about all this is that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think I can do a few more months until I can get that fresh brewed cup of coffee with my friends in the vestry. Let us hold hands. Through it all, I think we've been quite successful. We've won. We're together. We still see each other. Maybe not physically, but it's what we've got. Yes, we've won. And truthfully, I think next year is going to be so much better. I mean, what else can they throw at us? Asteroids and aliens? I mean, come on. Amen. Namaste. And blessed be. Please enjoy the postlude.
This is our rock and roll.